Hello guys, this is your friend and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is, what if Naruto awakened Sharingan and Rinnegan and created a perfect world for his family? Part 1. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. Namikaze Uchiha Naruto. A 4-year-old boy was strolling through the forests of Konohagakure no Sato. His hair a mix of blonde and few strands of brown in it. He had long spiky hair, which seemed to reach up to his shoulders. 2 jaw-length bangs on each side and on the front of his face, a bit of hair seemed to reach down to his right eye. He knew he was different. Different than the kids his age. While other kids would play in the park with other children and think of whether to play ninja tag or just run around, he would often think about life and death, or how the different shinobi villages were at each other's throats to prove themselves superior to the other. One may say any 4-year-old kid who thinks that way would need to consult a medic to verify whether her cognitive functions are right for their age or not. But Naruto knew there was nothing wrong with his brain functioning. It's just how he was raised. He was not sugar-coated about the horrors of the shinobi world unlike other kids. His 2chan often told him stories about different shinobi villages and the stories of the wars when he asked him about it. His 2chan, Namikaze Uchiha Minato. Yes, Naruto is the son of the great Yondaime Hokage of Konohagakure no Sato. Naruto was a smart boy for his age. Although he did not like to boast about it, he believed he would probably be the smartest person in his age group when he joins the Shinobi Academy of the village when he's of age. It was not hard for him to notice how the people of the village hailed his father as a hero and scorned him for reasons he did not understand. Ever since he could understand the human language and went out of the house alone on the streets of Konoha, he would see people glaring at him. He would often hear people whispering words like demon, monster, Kyuubi, traitor, but he ignored it. No one did ever say those awful things to him to his face unless they would bring the wrath of a pissed-off Hokage and the Uchiha clan. Being the son of Yondaime Hokage and grandson of Uchiha Madara has its merits, I suppose. Mused Naruto as he kept walking. Naruto was respected by the Uchiha clan. It was mainly because he had the blood of the strongest Uchiha running in his veins. Until recently, it was not a well-known fact to everyone that the current Hokage, Minato Namikaze, was an Uchiha. Not just any Uchiha, but the son of the legendary Uchiha Madara. The only ones who were aware of that fact were Jiraiya, Kushina Uzumaki Namikaze, Senju Tsunade and the deceased Sandaime Hokage, Sarutobi Hiruzen. The Uchiha clan too were aware of Minato and Naruto's heritage. Even though Madara was considered a traitor in the village, no one could ever doubt Minato's loyalty. His deeds during the Third Great Shinobi War single-handedly won Konoha her victory. The Uchiha clan, who had become restless earlier since they felt their power was considerably decreasing in the village, calmed down as one of their own, even if the son of Uchiha Madara could become the leader of the village. Minato was different from some of the power-hungry fools in his clan. He had his pride, but was not overly arrogant to believe that he was invincible. Growing up an orphan since the age of 5 in the village had instilled a humbler nature in him, which he instilled in his son, Naruto, as well. As Naruto was walking aimlessly amidst the forest of Konohagakure no Sato, his thoughts then lingered to his mother. His dead mother. Her name was Kushina Uzumaki Namikaze. She was from a village known as Uzushiogakure no Sato. The Uzumaki were distantly related to the Senju clan, and both the clans are believed to have the same progenitor. Naruto was told that his mother passed away during the dreadful night when a monster called the Kyuubi no Yoko attacked the village. He was even more astonished to hear that it was the Sandaime Hokage and his father who defeated the nine-tailed fox. Although, it came at a high price as the Sandaime lost his life that night. It was during the attack that Minato was forced to reveal his Sharingan to the others, which he normally hid under an advanced genjutsu. What Naruto did not know is that the very same Kyuubi no Yoko was sealed inside of him, as it is impossible to kill a Biju, a being made entirely of chakra. Let alone, the strongest of them all. Naruto may have had to grow up an orphan, had it not been for his Ji-chan. Naruto started calling Sarutobi with that informal name after listening to all the stories his father told him about the former Hokage. The Sandaime had used a kinjutsu to seal the young half of the nine-tailed fox inside baby Naruto just hours after he was born, while he sealed the yin half of the fox inside himself. It was Sarutobi's wish that Naruto grew up with a father standing by his side and becomes the beacon of light in the shroud of darkness that entraps humanity. Naruto suddenly stopped in his tracks as he realized he had been walking without a destination in his mind for quite some time now. He looked around to see where he exactly was and observed several ruined stone buildings around himself. It dawned on him that he must be quite far from his home because he didn't exactly know where he was right now. Ah crap, I got lost again. I should stop wandering here and there without letting Tu-chan know about it. He's not going to like it, thought Naruto as he sheepishly rubbed the back of his head, a trait he received from his father. He then noticed a gigantic tree with a half-visible symbol on it covered by several bushes growing near the tree. He went towards the tree and stood directly in front of it. He moved his hand towards it and removed the bushes covering the symbol he noticed earlier. What he found was quite astonishing. It was the symbol of Konohagakure no Sato. On its left and right side were the clan symbols of the Senju and the Uchiha respectively. He looked around, turning his head left and right to get a better view of the place he was standing on. There were several ruined stone buildings, few scattered kunai, katanas and the Senju and Uchiha clan symbols on each side of the tree respectively. He moved around the place a bit to see if his keen eyes could find something. And what he found was various scrap marks as well as burn marks on the trees which looked decades old. He came back to his earlier position, once again standing before the giant tree, as he came to the correct conclusion. Flashback. A 3-year-old Naruto was happily tucked under the comforts of his blanket in his bed by his Tu-chan, Minato. Tu-chan. I have a question, said an excited Naruto. Minato took a nearby chair and sat near his precious son and smiled looking at him. Yes, Naru. Naruto always loved the nicknames his father gave him. He always had a tough time coming up with nicknames for people. So, he believed it took one a lot of time to come up with them, and he loved the fact that his father spends time thinking about him. Even though he had a sharp mind, he was still a child, and that's what Minato loved among the many things about him. He could show maturity and wisdom 1 second and the next second he would act his age of being a child. How was our village formed? What was here in this place before Konoha was built? Naruto asked, his face showing how excited he was to learn different things. Well, do you remember what I told you about my father and the Sharingan Hokage of our village? Yes, Tu-chan. Madara Sofu and Senju Hashirama belong to the two noble clans, the Uchiha clan and the Senju clan. And both were the leaders of their clan when they formed an alliance between themselves to form the first hidden village, which today is known as Konohagakure no Sato. Naruto said. Minato nodded and patted his head once affectionately to signify what he said was correct. Naruto puffed his chest to show how proud he was that he knew his village's history. So before Konoha was formed, it was a time where most clans fought with each other to gain more lands and resources for themselves. You know, during those times also there were people as wealthy as the daimyo. And these wealthy people hired shinobi from clans to do chores that their average workers were not capable of. Do you understand what I said so far? Minato asked. Naruto nodded and Minato continued to tell the tale. So one clan would target the wealthy person who was using shinobi from their rival clan. So, if the clan can take out that wealthy person, their rival clan will lose resources. That will bring their rival clan's status down. The Uchiha and Senju clan also fought over similar reasons. The place where our village stands today was the battlefield of many wars fought between those two clans. When the two clans formed an alliance, they decided to choose a place where both the clans have met, whether be in battle or in a meeting. So, does that answer your question, Naru? Minato asked as he finished telling the story in simpler words so Naruto could understand them easily. Yes, 2-chan. You are the best, Naruto told his father as he closed his eyes and tried to go to sleep. Sleep well, Naru, Minato said, kissing his son's forehead. Flashback end. This must have been one of the main areas of the fight between the Uchiha and the Senju before the village was formed, thought an excited Naruto. He then noticed there was some sort of annotation below the Konoha village symbol. He moved his hands below the symbol and just traced the note with his hand once. He moved his face closer to get a better look at it. On this day, the Senju and the Uchiha clan joined hands with each other to form an alliance to build a better future for the coming generations to come. It was Madara's in my dream that one day we could stop the endless fighting that seems to have plagued this world. On this very land we stand on, our new home is going to be built. Konohagakure no Sato, a village built on the foundation of will of fire. A place where young will not have to be sent for battles, where children will have a chance to live a normal childhood. Especially a home where parents will not have to bury their own children. It is my belief that one day, the people of this world will look past each other's differences and look each other eye to eye. This my dream for the future. Hashirama Senju clan leader. Naruto was filled with awe upon reading the words written by the Shodai Hokage. While he was reflecting on the words of the former Hokage, he realized his grandfather Uchiha Madara was also mentioned in the annotation. He felt a bit sad that he never got to meet him. His father had told him a lot of things about his Sofu. Why did you have to leave me and 2-chan alone in the village, Madara Sofu? I never got to spend time with you, unlike 2-chan. Thought Naruto, a bit deflated. Naruto looked up from his spot towards the sky, and saw the sun was about to set. He gazed at the reddish sky for a while longer and closed his eyes and let the calm breeze flowing in the air graze his face. Suddenly, he felt someone touch his shoulders from behind and tensed a bit, thinking someone was attacking him. Naru, what are you doing so deep in the forests at this time? The person asked with concern. His father's voice calmed his nerves and he turned around and hugged his father, who was bending down on his legs to Naruto's eye level. Sorry 2-chan, I kind of got lost on the road of life. Naruto smirked, seeing his father's eye twitch. Damn you, Kakashi, I will need to talk to you about this, thought Minato. He looked at his son's eyes and softly said, I was concerned, Naru. I looked for you at home and grew worried not finding you there. Next time, you tell me, okay? Something could have happened to you, you know. Sorry 2-chan, it won't happen again, promise, Naruto said, looking down at his feet as he realized how worried his father might have become. His 2-chan was the closest person to him and he never wanted to hurt him. Come on now, it's alright. Good thing is, you are alright. It's a father job to worry about their child, you know, Minato said with a smile and ruffled his son's hair, gaining a goofy smile from him. Let's go home now. I will make us some dinner. What do you want to have tonight? Minato held Naruto's right hand in his left and started walking towards the village. Ramen, shouted the 4-year-old boy. Ha, guess, me and Naruto did get our eating habits from Kushina. Minato thought with a small smile as he and Naruto were walking back home. Although there are many civilians and shinobi alike who dislike Naruto for what he carries, there are also those who absolutely cherish the young blonde boy. Kakashi Hatake, a former student of Minato who is now an Anbu agent. He is the son of the famed White Fang, Tsukumo Hatake. With his gravity-defying silver hair and the face mask which he always has on, many find him an odd fellow. Till today, it's a mystery to almost everyone about his facial features. His Hitae is always pulled down to cover his left eye, containing a Sharingan eye. The unique dujutsu of the Uchiha clan was given to him by his former teammate and friend Obito Uchiha in his last moments, who died fighting during the Third Great Shinobi War. The exploits of the young shinobi during his ninja career were so impeccable, that he earned himself the moniker of Sharingan no Kakashi. There are several more shinobis that are Anbu agent as well as normal Junin of the Leaf Village who have taken a liking to Naruto. Yugao and Kurenai were both students of Kushina Uzumaki Namikaze. They all felt horrible when news of Kushina's untimely death during the Kyuubi's attack was revealed to the village. Hence, they often took time to visit baby Naruto when his father was busy. Makoto Uchiha, matriarch of the Uchiha clan, and Fugaku Uchiha, clan head of the Uchiha clan, who were close friends of Minato and Kushina since childhood, often visited baby Naruto along with their two sons Itachi and Sasuke. Makoto had taken a liking to little Naruto from the moment she laid eyes on him and often spent a lot of time with him and helped raise him whenever she could. Jiraiya of the Sannin, one of the 3 students of the late Sandaime Hokage and the sensei of Yondaime Hokage, Minato Namikaze. He gained the title of Sannin during the Second Great Shinobi War during his fight with Hanzo the Salamander, as a testimony of the battle prowess he showed. Even though he proclaims himself to be a super pervert, and often considered by others as an idiot, he's by far the strongest of his 2 teammates, Senju Tsunade and Orochimaru. Among his many special attributes is his ability to harness nature chakra or senjutsu, thus making him a sage. Since he was taught senjutsu by the Toad Summons, he's widely known as Gamma Sennin. The 2 ramen chefs at the Ichiraku ramen store in Kanahagakure no Sato are among the nicest people Naruto could ever meet. He was first taken there on his 3rd birthday. Tsuki, a 50-year-old man, is the one who mainly runs the store, and his teenage daughter, Ayame, helps him around with the dishes and customers. The next day, Naruto and Minato were both sitting on the grassy field of their backyard in the Namikaze estate. The father and son duo sat under shade of a sakura tree, enjoying the calm breeze of the afternoon sun. Even though Minato's status as an Uchiha was now revealed, he did not wish to live in the Uchiha compound. He knew growing up in the Uchiha compound for Naruto might not be a good idea. Considering he is the son of the Hokage and his heritage, most of the clan members around him will start to have expectations of him to become something great and start placing him on a pedestal above an average child. Living out here with me, apart from the clan, at least his life will not become a competition of achievements. The council members of the Uchiha clan won't try anything idiotic as long as I'm here. Minato thought. He was brought out of his musings, as he felt Naruto tap his hands. Yes, Naru, he asked. 2-chan, I want to become a shinobi. Naruto said, looking at his feet. Oh, why do you want to, Naru? He asked softly. I want to become strong like you. I want to live in a peaceful world. You told me, there's so much hatred in this world, that people from other villages won't talk to us properly, because they think we are a threat to them. I want to change that. I want everyone to stay happy. I don't want people to die anymore. I don't want you to die. Naruto said the last part in a whisper, still looking down at his feet. Minato was left speechless upon hearing his son's reasoning. He has witnessed a lot of things in his shinobi life, in which death of a shinobi took the upper rank. He looked at his son with calculating eyes, studying his posture. Naruto thought he must have said something wrong since his father wasn't replying to him. He looked at his father and saw him looking at him intently. He was about to speak something when his father beat him to it. Naru, do you know why a shinobi fights? Why we shinobi kill each other? To protect someone close to us. Naruto said, remembering his father telling him that once. That is true. In this shinobi world, there is no right or wrong. Everyone in this world fights for something they think is right. Something which may seem right to you, may look wrong to someone else. Do you understand, son? Minato asked. He could see his son was in deep thought, looking at his facial expression. His left eyebrow was raised slightly and both of his hands were folded over his chest. He's so much like me and Tu-san when we are deep in our thoughts. He thought with a bit of nostalgia. Yes, Tu-chan, I think I do. Naruto said as he slowly nodded his head. You have an admirable dream, Naruto. You know, most kids your age would say they want to become strong for their own sake. But, to become strong to protect someone else is one of the wisest traits a person can portray. Minato said with a smile. Naruto was really glad to have his 2chan with him. He loved how his father could make him feel happy all the time. He went and hugged Minato tightly for a few seconds, enjoying being in his presence. When they parted, Minato made Naruto sit on his lap and said, "Naru, the life of a shinobi is never easy. It is full of sacrifices, hardships, hatred, and you must do lots of things which you, yourself may feel as wrong. My sensei once told me, a shinobi is one who stands firm and endures. I will teach you everything I know about being a shinobi, but at the end it is up to you, how you make use of that teaching, okay? Hi 2chan, now can we get started please?" he asked a bit impatiently. Minato inwardly smiled seeing his son so happy on the prospect of being a shinobi. How much ever smart he may seem, Naru is still a kid right now. I wish you were here to see our son grow up Kushina. I promise, I will always stand by your side no matter what happens, my little Naru. Yes, I know. Calm down Naru. Get up and follow me now okay? Minato asked getting a nod from the young boy. Naruto followed his father to a small pond a few distances away from the sakura tree. He saw his father sitting down cross-legged and he too sat down in the same position facing Minato. Naru, listen closely to me from now alright? Minato said and saw Naruto nod his head. Today, we are going to unlock your chakra. In our world, essentially everything contains chakra. Starting from humans, to animals and even trees and plants. Chakra is a form of life energy and those who run out of chakra eventually die. Chakra is produced within chakra coils that mainly surround and connect to each organ that produces chakra. Shinobi generate and release it outside their bodies through pressure points which are called tenketsu points. Minato paused in between to look at Naruto and found him to be listening to him intently. Did you understand what I said up till now? Minato asked. Hi 2chan, Naruto said. Minato was about to continue when he saw a questioning look on his son's face. Naru, do you have a question? 2chan, you once told me, since you are the Hokage, you have the most chakra in the village. So, does that mean, you also have more tenketsu points than the others? Naruto asked. Minato smiled a bit seeing Naruto question. He remembered how he used to question his father when he started teaching him the ways of molding chakra in his early years after his mother's unfortunate death. No Naru, every person has a fixed number of tenketsu points, which is 361. When a person trains for years and conserves chakra, their chakra coils tend to expand, thus increasing that person's chakra reserves. Some people are born with more chakra while some with comparatively less. People belonging to shinobi family are born with fairly larger chakra than those in civilian family. Minato looked at his son again and saw him nod understanding that Naruto followed his words. Now, we will try and unlock your chakra, he said and Naruto smiled with excitement visible in his eyes. Now Naru, relax your body and put the palms of both your hands together and hold it in front of your chest and close your eyes. Keep focus on yourself and nothing else okay? Try and find a warm pull in your body. Minato said and saw Naruto sitting in the instructed position and closing his eyes. It had been about 10 minutes that Naruto was sitting in the same position with his hands clasped in front of him. I wonder if he's going to unlock it in his first try. It's very rare but not impossible, thought Minato as he saw his son concentrate. Meanwhile, Naruto's breathing had become light and his mind in a perfect state of calmness. He searched deep within his body for a warm thing and saw a bluish-purple light. He instantly pulled out his hands and grabbed it. Minato was thinking along those lines when there was a sudden burst of immense purple chakra from Naruto creating spider web cracks on the ground they were sitting on. Minato's eyes widened on seeing the ground's crack around him and Naruto. He saw how wildly the chakra flowed and swirled around Naruto's body. So much of chakra and such density at such a young age. Incredible. The chakra output continued for a while and soon Naruto opened his eyes seeing his father looking at him with widened eyes. He felt so incredible now. He could sense his father's chakra in front of him and was amazed at how large it was. He could also pinpoint 2 people standing on the east side of his house. Must be those shinobi working specially for 2-chan. He thought. I did it 2-chan, he whispered in a tired voice. He smiled seeing his father's stupefied expression and tried standing up. He put his hands on the ground and stood up with shaky legs. As soon as he took 2 steps forward, his vision became a bit hazy and he started falling towards the ground. Minato quickly stood up from his sitting position and moved to catch Naruto before he fell. I'm proud of you, Naru. You must be tired now, huh? Minato asked, getting a weak nod from Naruto. He placed him in his arms safely and felt him fall asleep immediately. He brushed his hair softly once and heard him release a content sigh. There's no doubt in my mind, you will go on to achieve great things, my son. Whatever path you shall choose in life, just know I will always be there by your side. He whispered softly. Minato then took Naruto inside the house and laid him gently on the sofa of the living room. Sleep well, Naru, Minato said as he kissed his forehead once. He then looked at the clock and saw it was around 4:30 in the afternoon. I should get done with some of my paperwork. I will take Naru for ramen at night, Minato thought as he made his way to his office inside the house. Few hours later, it was around 8 at night that Naruto began to slowly open his eyes. He rubbed his eyes once to get adjusted to the light in the room. He realized he must have fallen asleep right after he unlocked his chakra. He looked around the room and saw he was on the couch in the living room. 2-chan must have put me here, he thought. He got up from the couch and folded the blanket and kept it aside. He walked towards the kitchen to see it was empty. Naruto remembered how he could pinpoint the location of the 2 Anbius who were standing just outside his house and sensed the amount of chakra his father possessed. So, he closed his eyes and tried finding his father's chakra. Ah, he's there in the office room, Naruto thought with a smile. He immediately opened his eyes and made his way upstairs to his father. Minato was busy doing his paperwork when he heard the door open and looked up to see his son. Naru, when did you wake up? Minato asked. 2-chan, I'm hungry. Can we have dinner now? Naruto blurted out immediately. He then rubbed his head sheepishly. Just give me a few minutes, okay? We'll go out to Ichiraku Ramen. Naruto smiled upon hearing his father say that and ran to his room to get dressed. So much of useless paperwork. I don't know if it ever gets over. Minato cursed. For the past few hours all he had been doing was sit on this chair and sign away the papers. Most of it was requests made for random tasks by the civilians. He realized just thinking about it wouldn't get his job done any faster. He went through the remaining documents on his desk to check if anything required his immediate attention and then made a kage bunshin with no hand sign and ordered it to finish rest of the paperwork. The clone gave Minato a glare and begrudgingly got to doing the work. Meanwhile, Minato walked out of the room with a smirk thinking, I doubt anyone ever thought about using clones to get the job done faster. Even though Minato could have used the kage bunshins to do the work the entire time, he only used it when he had other important things to do. Most of the time, he had to go through the papers himself in case it was an important document. Minato went down towards the main door to see Naruto waiting there quite impatiently. It still amused him, how much his son loved ramen. It was among the few things which could make his son act his own age. Ready to go, Naru? He asked looking at Naruto. Hi 2-chan. Come on, let's hurry up, Naruto exclaimed. He held on to his father's hand and both walked out of the house towards the only ramen store in Konohagakure no Sato. It was a cold night in the village hidden in the leaves. It was the month of November and snow was yet to fall. There was a strong wind blowing, because of which most of the civilians were already inside their house. There were several Anbu as well as normal shinobi were strolling the streets of the village. Most of the clan houses were on the outskirts of the village, which seemed quite desolate at nights. The Namikaze compound was on the far east side of the village near the Uchiha compound. Even though several questions regarding to move the Uchiha clan further away from their original place was raised after the Kyuubi attack, Minato dissolved any further discussions on the matter with an absolute no. Even if Minato wasn't raised by the Uchiha clan or did not abide by their laws, he was still born an Uchiha. He may not like some people of the clan, but they were still part of Konoha and he wouldn't want to watch them get isolated from the village integrity or be moved from the grounds where they have lived since the founding days of the village. Minato and Naruto walked out of the Namikaze compound and made their way towards the shop. Along the way, the father and son duo made ideal talks about what they will be doing tomorrow and certain points about Naruto's start of training. It was mostly Naruto doing the talking and Minato listening to his 4-year-old boy talk. Naruto himself felt slightly excited at the prospect of becoming a shinobi. He knew it wouldn't be easy, but he knew he could do it. He wanted to become powerful. He had heard stories of his grandfather's battle prowess and it captivated him to think someone so powerful could ever exist. It may be childish to think, but he did promise himself, "I will become stronger than anyone this world has ever seen." Unconsciously he gripped his father's hand tighter. Minato noticed his son's face as they were nearing the shop and saw how calm he looked as his tilted head gazed at the night sky. "I wish you were here to see him, Kushina," he thought. Both the father and son were brought out of their thoughts as they realized they had reached the ramen shop. "Hokage-sama, Naruto-kun," said both Tsuki and Ayame as they saw Minato and Naruto come inside the shop. The father and son then took a seat as they greeted the two ramen store owners. "Tsuki and Ayame, how many times have I told you not to call me with formalities? You guys have known me for years," Minato said. "It's only the right thing to do, Hokage-sama," said Tsuki with a sly grin. Minato sighed knowing it wouldn't do any good. Ayame looked at Naruto and asked, "Naruto-kun, what would you have today?" "The same as always." Naruto nodded quickly as he was starting to get really hungry. "I will have the same as Naru, Ayame." "So, make it 2 miso ramen," Minato added. The two chefs went inside the kitchen and started making the food. After a few minutes, Ayame came out with 2 steaming hot bowls of ramen and kept it in front of Minato and Naruto. Naruto inhaled the delicious aroma of the food and started gulping it down and finished it in a matter of few seconds. Minato, who was watching him eat, sweat dropped at how quickly his son finished it. He definitely got his ramen addiction and table manners from Kushina, Minato thought. Minato too finished his bowl in the next few minutes and the pair left the store back to their house after bidding the two chefs goodnight for the night. Itachi Uchiha, a 9-year black-haired boy and the eldest son of the current Uchiha clan head. Regarded as the genius of the Uchiha clan, he graduated from the Shinobi Academy of the village within a year at top of his class. But one of the main things that made the boy so special was the fact that he had awakened the Sharingan at the mere age of 7. Many from the Uchiha clan as well as the village had great expectations from the boy. Even though Itachi was subjugated to so much praise from everyone, he never let any of it get to his head. He was among very few humble shinobi within the clan. He was kind and gentle. Something which a small part of the Uchiha clan members disliked but did not say anything, for he was the son of the clan head. He became a genin at the age of 7 and soon enough the next year he was promoted to chunin during the chunin exams held in Kumogakure no Sato. He was returning from his border patrol duty when he saw the Hokage and his son walking back towards their home. Seeing as he was going back home too, he decided to walk with them. He jumped down from the tree he was standing on and started to make his way towards them when he saw Naruto stop suddenly and look at his direction. His eyes widened a bit at that. As Minato and Naruto were walking back home, Minato saw Naruto abruptly stop and look behind him. Minato, confused for a while, was about to speak when he felt a presence approach them. Soon enough, he saw Itachi walking towards them in his shinobi gear. Minato looked at his son with surprising eyes. A sensor. His sensing ability has to be extremely great to able to sense Itachi. Minato then looked at Itachi and said, Itachi, coming back from the border patrol I presume? Yes Hokage-sama. I was relieved from my duty by Shisui. Itachi replied politely. He then looked at Naruto with his ever so calm and stoic face as he thought about the incident a few minutes ago. This is my son, Naruto Namikaze. I believe you have met him before, have you not? Minato asked as he saw Itachi staring at Naruto. Itachi looked at Minato and nodded. I have seen him a few times walking around the village by himself. But not that often. Although my mother did tell me a lot about Naruto-kun. Even though Itachi and Sasuke have both visited the Namikaze estate along with their parents on many occasions, Naruto often stayed inside his room reading books on various shinobi lands and the history of ninjutsu. So, it was only Makoto who went up to Naruto's room to have a talk with him while Fugaku and his son sat downstairs in the living room with Minato. Hokage-sama, what is Naruto-kun's age? Itachi asked. Minato raised an eyebrow upon hearing the question, but had a suspicion as to what it was about. He's 4 years and a month now. Naruto, who was standing beside his father, just kept quiet all this time and stared at the boy who was talking to his two-chan. He knew who Itachi was as he had seen him at his house on many occasions and has heard several shinobi talking about the Uchiha prodigy. Itachi's eyes again widened upon hearing that. To have such great sensing abilities at such a young age. I know my chakra was kept suppressed. Minato saw Itachi's shocked look for a second and knew what he was thinking. He's quite special Hokage-sama. It's already surprising to see a 4-year-old boy to have unlocked his chakra. Itachi said as he saw Naruto smile at his comment. Minato nodded as he glanced at his son from where he was standing. How is little Sasuke doing, Itachi? He's doing well Hokage-sama. In fact, he will be starting his ninja training soon. He looked at Naruto for a second and turned his gaze back to Minato and thought over a matter. Maybe I should bring Sasuke to meet with Naruto-kun over at your place someday later. They could become good friends with each other and could possibly develop a friendly rivalry. Itachi said. Minato knew Naruto did not have many friends his age. He would often take him to the park, but most he did was talk a few lines with other children. He asked him the reason on many occasions but all he got for a reply was, I don't know, two-chan. They all just look at me like I'm different. It made him sad knowing how his son was treated in the village by the civilians and shinobis who lost their families on that night. But there was very little he could do to make an entire village get over the grief and loss they faced 4 years ago. Thus, his face formed a smile upon hearing the prospect of Naruto meeting someone his age and befriending him. Will he also look at me differently like the other people? It was Naruto who spoke. Both Itachi and Minato could note the tiny glimpse of sadness in his voice. Surprisingly, Itachi bent down to Naruto's eye level and grasped his shoulders firmly with both his hands and said, No, Naruto-kun. Sasuke wouldn't look at you that way. Also, it shouldn't matter what others think of you. They don't know you personally and you don't know them personally. You are special Naruto-kun. You have a power within you, which others don't. People don't understand what they don't know and tend to fear it. So, do not make that face. Naruto was a bit surprised on hearing that. He looked at his father and saw him smile. He turned to Itachi with a small smile and said, Thank you Itachi-san. Itachi got up from his position and looked up at the sky to see the moon's position. It's getting quite late Hokage-sama. I should probably leave now. Apologizes to keep you occupied for so long, he said. It's no problem Itachi. Tell Fugaku and Makoto to come to our house sometime too. Minato said. Naruto felt happy that he would get to meet Makoto again. He remembered how the nice lady used to come and talk to him. Many of the books which he has now, were gifted to him by his auntie. Of course Hokage-sama. Itachi then looked at Naruto and said, It was good meeting you Naruto-kun. I will come along with Sasuke sometime later to meet with you again. He bowed to Minato once and disappeared in a swirl of leaves to his home. That was such a cool technique. 2-chan, do you think you can teach me that? Naruto asked excitedly. Minato smiled seeing his son's reaction and just settled for nodding. He took Naruto's hand in his own and they walked back towards the Namikaze compound. Ninjutsu. An abomination created by the humans to wage wars. That was not what he had taught when he was alive. That was not the intended purpose. He sought to bring peace. He sought to connect people through chakra. Hence, he shared his unique chakra with others in the hope that humankind could better understand each other. Alas, humans are such fickle beings. His own son, Indra, had disregarded everything his teaching stood for. Everything he sought to protect. After he died, he had hoped his younger son, Ashura, could convince his brother to leave the path of darkness. That, however, could not be possible in their current life. He knew how powerful his two sons' chakra was. It could be considered near omnipotent, yet, nowhere near his own. He saw his two sons' chakra transmigrate in 2 other shinobi generations later. Yet again, he hoped these two could resolve the feud his two sons had begun. However, again, he was proved wrong. He knew he shouldn't have cast his attention away from Indra. But Ashura reminded him so much of himself. His younger son's ideals were exactly like his. To bring peace through love. While Indra too wanted the same thing, but differently. He wanted to dominate. This world did not need another person like his mother. So, he decided to give his son the power which he knew Ashura would use for the better. That was his first mistake. Unconsciously embracing one while neglecting the other. He knew his son's chakra would not rest until the feud was resolved and hence knew they would again transmigrate. Years later he again felt it. Ashura and Indra's chakra transmigrating. But he was surprised when they chose one vessel. He did not know the name of the human who they chose. However, he could feel this child was the descendant of both Indra and Ashura. He could only see foggy images. Blonde hair, blue eyes, and his eyes widened slightly. Could he be? He asked himself. The prophecy his friend spoke to him about. He smiled, knowing his friend couldn't be wrong. This time he knew what he had to do. He would not cast his attention away from Indra. They were both his sons. He loved them both equally. It pained him to see the generations-long fight between them, and it pained him to see the world so angry and so helpless. It pained him at how his other 9 children were treated by the humans. However, he could not bring himself to hate them. Humans fear what they do not understand. He would give the world someone to put their trust in again. He would give the child what is rightfully his. And so, when the child was born, he brought forth his Shikuho and effectively gave the blonde boy his yin and yang chakra, which mixed with the boy's, forming chakra coils and essentially making it his own chakra. He smiled as he saw the sun mark on his tiny right hand and the half-crescent moon mark on his left hand pulsate for a second and vanish, set for the child to be seen when he reaches deep within his soul. He heard his eldest child, Kurama, scream in agony when his yin chakra was ripped from him and his yang half sealed inside the blonde infant. He couldn't let his eldest go down a path filled with hatred. He reached Kurama within the boy's mindscape and immediately calmed him down with one touch of his hand. He knew he didn't have much time in the realm of mortals. And before he disappeared from this realm, he told his eldest his last words, "Help him, Kurama. This child will be different. He is destined for greatness, the likes of which have never been seen. Guide him along the right path. Save him in his dark times and stand alongside him in his brighter ones. The child of prophecy has taken birth." Kurama smiled hearing his father's words. "So, the time has come, Rakudo Jiji. No harm shall come to this boy so long as I'm here in this world." The fox said with conviction present in its voice. Hagoromo knew this time, the world would change. This time, the world will have her savior. Humanity will have its savior. He could rest now and watch the blonde boy's story unfold. Next day, Namikaze compound, Kanahagakure no Sato. He could feel it. He could feel everything around him, and it was mesmerizing. Naruto sat at the back gardens of his compound in a lotus position and was meditating. His face a picture of perfect calmness. His two-chan told him this morning that meditation was necessary for a shinobi. It helped one keep calm and their head clear of stray thoughts. Especially, it made one aware of their surroundings. So, it's been around an hour that Naruto's been sitting in a lotus position. The village had a calm breeze blowing through it. Naruto's jaw-length bangs flowed with the breeze calmly. Naruto himself felt at extreme peace. He could feel his surroundings. He could feel the people's emotions. He understood them. It made him happy how peaceful the village was. He could feel chakra. The chakra flowing in the world. In the trees. In the air. In the animals. In the lake, in his garden. It's everywhere. He thought, giddy with excitement. He never felt so wonderful before. It felt so pure. More so than his own chakra. It felt so fresh. It was filled with life energy. He wanted to feel it. So, he reached out for it and let it enter his body. He immediately felt refreshed and was in sync with the world. He smiled. He couldn't describe the feeling. It was omnipotent. His senses were even more heightened now. Unknown to Naruto, his entire body was covered in chakra. A brilliant shade of purple. He was radiating so much life energy around him. The flowers were blooming. The grass and trees were growing at a rapid pace. The birds were chirping. The squirrels were now surrounding nearby him. It was a picturesque sight. In one word, it was aesthetic. His chakra was so warm and welcoming that it was felt by everyone. Naruto's chakra covered the entire village in a thin blanket of calmness. It felt as bright as the sun. Every civilian and shinobi alike felt it and immediately stopped what they were doing. They did not know what it was, but they could feel it was powerful and commanding. Yet, instead of making them fall on their knees, it made them feel rejuvenated. It was touching every part of their body, every cell in it, and they could feel how incredible it was. Minato and Kakashi, who were there inside the Hokage's office, felt it too. Both knew the chakra signature and grew slightly worried as to why he was releasing such copious amounts of chakra. Minato immediately held Kakashi and disappeared to the Namikaze compound in a yellow flash. Minato and Kakashi quickly made their way towards the gardens, and when they reached, their eyes widened at the sight in front of them. Naruto was creating nature. Minato activated his Sharingan and Kakashi pulled his headband up to see what exactly it was that Naruto was doing. Sensei. Naruto, he's pulling chakra from the nature around him. Isn't that? Kakashi said while not being able to comprehend whether what he was seeing was true or not. Minato was in no different position. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. His son, only 4 years old, was doing something neither Jiraiya nor he could master completely, even after years of training. Senjutsu? Yes, Kakashi. Naruto is using senjutsu, Minato said in a whisper. Naruto, who was yet to move from his position, had felt his father and Kakashi the moment they had arrived here. He decided to test something out which was there in his mind. He willed a part of his chakra around him to form into a hand and waved at the two shinobi present. Naruto slowly opened his eyes and the intake of chakra from the nature into his body stopped. The chakra swirling around his body, too, receded back. He looked at his two-chan and his ni-chan and saw their incredulous faces. He gave them a questioning look, signifying them that he had idea what he did just now. Minato glanced towards Kakashi once and both the Hokage and the Anbu captain moved towards the 4-year-old child. Naru, what were you doing just now? Minato asked in a kind voice. Kakashi stood beside his sensei and gave his brother-like figure one of his eye smiles and a wave of his hands. Oh, that, I was feeling chakra two-chan. It felt so amazing. I could feel chakra everywhere. It felt like a never-ending thing. I could also feel everyone in the village. Even you and Kakashi ni-chan. It's like I knew where everyone was. What their emotions were. Naruto said in an excited voice while the two shinobi just listened with dumbfounded expressions. Naruto folded his hands over his chest and seemed to think over something for a while and gave a wide smile. I know. I felt like I could communicate with nature. Yes, that's it. Isn't that cool too, Chan? Kakashi ni-chan. In all their experiences, they had never come across anything such as this. Had someone told them that a 4-year-old child could use senjutsu effortlessly, they would have just laughed at them. However, witnessing Naruto do it right in front of them, they found the words stuck in their mouth. It should be inconceivable, yet the proof was right in front of their eyes. Minato soon got out of his stupor and bent to Naruto's eye level. Yes, that is indeed amazing, Naru. But do you have an idea as to how you did it just now? Well, I was just meditating as you told me in the morning, and then I could just feel the chakra around myself. It felt so pure and different than my own that I felt inclined to touch it. Then, I just let it enter my body. Naruto said with a wide smile. You really have no idea what you just did, Naruto. Both Minato and Kakashi thought. Naruto, what you were doing right now was using senjutsu. The chakra present in the nature, or in general the chakra present in the atmosphere of the world, is called nature chakra or senjutsu chakra. Not everyone can do this, Naruto. It's a very difficult aspect to master. Jiraiya-sama and Minato-sensei are the only one that I know of who can do it. And I'm sure, even they took some time to grasp senjutsu. Kakashi spoke seriously. Naruto's eyes widened greatly, understanding the implications of Kakashi's words, and couldn't help but smile. He didn't boast himself for doing something incredible. Instead, he was merely glad he had something more in common with his 2-chan and Jiraiya Oji-chan. Meanwhile, Minato looked at his son with nothing but pride in his eyes. He remembered the prophecy his sensei once told him about a blue-eyed boy who would change the world for the better, and somehow he knew it was his Naru. After what he witnessed his son do today, he had to be, and he was going to make sure he would stay by his son's side through it all. The Yondaime got up from his crouched position and motioned for Naruto to get up too. Come on, Naruto, let's get back inside the house. You could go to Ichiraku Ramen for lunch. You must be hungry after what you did just now. Minato said as Naruto, Kakashi and he made their way inside the house. Naruto said, nodding his head vigorously. The moment the three reached inside the house, Naruto said goodbye to his father and Kakashi and ran to Ichiraku Ramen stand to have his favorite meal. Minato and Kakashi couldn't help but laugh a bit at his enthusiasm towards eating ramen. Unknown to all three of them as of now, Naruto's hand had pulsed softly earlier, engraving 2 images on his hands that would change the future drastically. The sun mark on his right hand and the half-crescent moon mark on his left hand. Sensei, Kakashi asked, gaining Minato's attention. Seeing the look on his student's face, he understood what he was meaning to ask. I know Kakashi. His chakra was felt by everyone within the village. No doubt there's going to be a council meeting regarding this soon. He said. His voice showed that he was not too happy about it. What are you going to do, Sensei? Are you going to tell them the truth? We should also inform Jiraiya-sama about this as soon as possible. Kakashi said. I don't know yet, Kakashi. I should discuss matters with Jiraiya-sensei and the Toad Summons first before I reach any conclusion. Naruto's innate ability to use senjutsu baffles even me. I have never seen anything like this before. Minato said as he exhaled a deep sigh. This was a serious matter. One that could have untold implications on the elemental nations. Kakashi nodded, deciding not to say anything more. Both shinobi exited the Namikaze compound and went back to the Hokage Tower. Minato to do his accursed paperwork, and Kakashi to read and giggle over his perverted little orange book. 2 months later, Jiraiya had arrived within the village in the next 2 days to meet with the 2 Namikaze as soon as he had received a message from one of his Toad Summons regarding Naruto's ability to use senjutsu. Minato had written a detailed message to the Gamma Sennin about what he had felt and what he had seen Naruto do. To say Jiraiya was shocked would be an understatement. When he had witnessed his godson utilizing senjutsu chakra, he just couldn't believe his eyes. It shouldn't be possible. Yet, he knew his eyes and his years of training in senjutsu was not deceiving him. However, instead of denying what was right in front of his eyes, it just made his belief stronger that his godson was the one. The sun and half-crescent moon mark on Naruto's hands were noticed by both Minato and Jiraiya when they got down to teaching him the intricacies of senjutsu. Naruto himself did not know what these marks represented, but he could feel that the sun represented his brighter chakra whereas the moon represented his darker one. Upon hearing that, Minato theorized, Naruto's yang chakra was represented by the sun and his yin chakra was represented by the half-crescent moon. It was surprising for the 2-cage-level shinobi as to why it was that Naruto had those marks. Every person has chakra, even civilians, and chakra is made of two halves, that is yin and yang. They balance each other always. So, for Naruto to manifest his yin and yang chakra in such a way made them believe that his chakra was somehow special compared to rest of the humans. Soon after that, Naruto was introduced to the Toad summons. He was extremely excited that he would get to use the same summons like his 2-chan and Jiraiya Oji-chan. For a few days, a week, Naruto would usually spend time either with his father or the Toads at Mount Myoboku to further delve into the complicities of senjutsu. Jiraiya, being a spy master, rarely spent a lot of time in village. His information gathering was important for the village. While training Naruto, it was also noted that the blonde had exceptional control over his chakra. When he was given the tree walking exercise, it took Naruto merely about half an hour to get it done. With the water walking exercise, it took the blonde slightly longer, but he had completed it in record time, stunning the Yondaime and the Sharingan no Kakashi. Later, he was introduced to more advanced chakra control exercises, such as kunai balancing, separating different colors of sand particles from a mixture in less than 10 seconds, and they were left astonished since Naruto completed those exercises in not even less than 2 days. Tsunade Senju, daughter of Hashirama Senju and Mito Uzumaki and one of the Densetsu no Sannin, is hailed as the greatest medical ninja of this era. Her chakra control is something which can only be aspired and dreamt of by others. Yet, Naruto, a 4-year-old boy, had such great control over his chakra it was deemed to be on par with Tsunade. And as Naruto grows up, it would only get better. Naruto was literally a sponge. Everything that was taught to him, he soaked it up immediately. It was astonishing and slightly scary, the rate at which he was picking up things which should not be possible. In the past 2 months, Naruto had already mastered several of the lower-level jutsu that was taught to him. Some of them being henge transformation, kawirami substitution, sunshin no jutsu teleportation jutsu, and a variation of the bunshin no jutsu clone jutsu called cage bunshin no jutsu, shadow clone jutsu. The cage bunshin no jutsu was a kinjutsu which was created by the Nadaime Hokage of Konohagakure no Sato. This jutsu divides the caster's chakra in the number of clones the caster wishes to create. While it was not an issue for Naruto to make a normal bunshin, he was mainly taught the jutsu as it had more practical uses on the battlefield as well as while training. Seeing as how Naruto had exceptional chakra control, he was also introduced to few beginner medical ninjutsu, such as Shoshin Jutsu, mystical palm technique. Kakashi and Minato were hailed as the greatest prodigies ever of their time. Seeing Naruto train often left them wondering how much of a prodigy they were. Their latent talent was nothing compared to the little boy. Naruto was on his way to become a shinobi the likes of which were never seen in history. Seeing Naruto's growth rate and his talent, Kakashi had suggested Minato to put Naruto in Anbu to better utilize his skills. That was a mistake. Minato had outright disregarded the idea. He reasoned his son may be different from the other children his age, but he deserved to have a normal childhood for as long as possible. Minato was not going to throw his only son in a world of bloodshed so early in his life. It was a warm sunny day in Konohagakure no Sato. It was around 1 in the afternoon and the market streets of the village were bustling with activity. There were people going in and out of shops. either purchasing materials for themselves or pawning their personal items for some money. The shinobi were jumping over the rooftops, either going to complete their missions or towards the Hokage Tower to receive more missions. Naruto had just finished having some food at the ramen stand after his morning workout and was heading towards one of the secluded area within the forests for some more training. Minato and Kakashi had told Naruto that he had to get his physique in shape for the taijutsu katas that he was learning from the scroll given to him by his 2-chan. The scroll contained the Interceptor Fist, the taijutsu style used by Madara Uchiha. It relied on fast reflexes and studying the opponent's movements first and reacting to them in a quick span of time. While for most Uchiha, their Sharingan is an integral part in their taijutsu moves, Naruto is taught to consider the Sharingan as merely an accessory tool. The Sharingan is only supposed to decipher the subtle movements and give an edge in hand-to-hand combat. But if one can do that without the use of the Sharingan, it gives one much greater reflexes while using it. Every morning, Naruto would wake up and do 15 laps around the Namikaze compound. From there he moved to 50 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, 50 pull-ups and ended with 100 punches and kicks on a training dummy placed in the training grounds inside his compound. Every week he would add 5 laps more and 50 more to each of the exercise. He had gotten the inspiration from Kakashi when he told Naruto that he used to do similar exercises when he began his ninja training, which was around the same time as the blonde boy. So currently, Naruto was walking towards the forested area behind one of the playgrounds near the Hokage Tower when he heard a girl crying. Few minutes earlier, Sakura Haruno, a 4-year-old girl, was an aspiring ninja. Both her parents were veteran shinobi who could not pursue their shinobi career after the Third Great Ninja War. Her father, Kazashi Haruno, was an above-average shinobi who was extremely adept in using genjutsu, while her mother, Mebuki Haruno, was a medical ninja. Ever since she had known, she loved to read books. She often went to the Konoha library and borrowed books regarding basic medical knowledge, shinobi life and the history of elemental nations from the civilian sections. Being more of a book nerd, Sakura had yet to start any physical training. Today, she was returning from library after borrowing books which spoke about the granddaughter of the Shodai Hokage, Tsunade Senju, and how she brought about a revolutionary change in the field of medicine. It was a warm afternoon today, so she decided to take a longer route and go through the park near the Hokage monument. As she was walking back to her home, she didn't realize that there were several boys few years older than her who were looking at her funny and making fun of her huge forehead and bright pink hair. One of the boys went behind her back and pushed her down. Sakura screamed lightly as she fell quite uncharacteristically. The book she was holding lay beside her and her hair had become a mess. "Look at your huge forehead. It's bigger than your head. Ha ha, what a weird girl," said the boy who had pushed her down as he laughed. The 2 other boys who were there with him joined him and also started laughing at the pink-haired girl. Even though Sakura was quite self-conscious about her forehead, she tried not to let it get to her when someone made fun of her. So just like most of the time, she ignored the bullies and went to reach for her book which was lying beside her. Just when she was about to reach it, the second boy snatched it and read the title out loud. General Medical Knowledge Tsunade Senju. Read the boy out loud. "Gee, give me my book back," whimpered Sakura under the fierce gaze of the boys in front of her. He then looked at her as if she was a freak and mocked her by saying, "So, you want to become a ninja? How would you ever become one with such big forehead and that ugly pink hair? I mean, who even has pink hair? It's just plain weird." He smirked when he saw her eyes became a bit wet and started crying slowly. He threw the book at her which hit her arm. Sakura, who was down on the ground, picked up her book slowly, only wished someone came to help her. She just didn't know how close her help was. With Naruto, he moved closer towards the sound and saw a small girl around his age with hair a bright color of pink and holding a green-colored book in her hands. He noticed she had an above-average size forehead, but found it cute for some reason. Then he scowled a bit seeing as there were 3 boys obviously elder than her and they bullying her. He immediately rushed towards the girl and stood in front defiantly. The 3 boys were a bit surprised at seeing the blonde. They didn't even see him come. "Oi, what do you think you're doing? Move away from her," Naruto said a bit coldly. Sakura looked at the boy who stood before her and her eyes widened. The boys flinched a bit hearing his voice but didn't move however. The boy who had pushed Sakura down stepped forward and said, "Who do you think you are? You can't just boss us around. Look at that freak anyway. Ugly hair and forehead." For reasons unknown to Naruto, he felt angry hearing the boy call her freak. He remembered how he felt when the villagers often whispered demon, monster, traitor and words such as that when he walked around the village. He didn't want anyone else to feel like that. Through his negative emotion sensing, he understood how the girl felt. Scared, weak, and it made the blonde furious. He brought his index and middle finger of his right hand joined together before his face and willed 4 Bunshin into existence. Naruto could feel the shock in the 3 boys' minds and how afraid they felt as of now. He smiled inwardly when he felt the girl feeling hopeful. Sakura could only watch in wonder as the blonde boy before her, who was most likely the same age as her, performed ninjutsu so easily. "I'm Naruto Namikaze. Now leave, before I make you," he said in a commanding voice. Sakura's and the 3 boys' eyes widened learning that the blonde was the Yondaime Hokage's son. The boys took a few steps back in fear, immediately turned back and ran as fast as they could from the blonde and the girl. Naruto felt proud that he could scare away the bullies from the innocent girl. Remembering about the girl, he turned around to see the girl staring at her in amazement and admiration. Naruto saw the book the girl was carrying on the ground and picked it up. He dusted it off and handed the book back to the girl who gave him a small smile. He saw how her cheeks were slightly red, but thought that she must be feeling quite hot. "Are you okay?" asked Naruto in a kind voice. Hi," Sakura said, blushing a bit. "You know medical ninjutsu is pretty cool. I'm learning a bit myself with my 2-chan's help," Naruto exclaimed. Sakura knew not many children her age found interest in medical field, so it was surprising for her to hear Naruto say that. Realizing that he didn't know her name yet, he asked her, "Well, what is your name?" Sakura looked at his face and how his blonde hair fell over his forehead and covered his right eye. Sakura broke out of her gaze realizing that she was staring at him. "Sakura Haruno," the girl replied hastily. She felt her cheeks turn a bit red and immediately ran back to her house. Naruto was extremely confused at the girl's attitude. He could feel the girl didn't have any feelings of detestation or fearfulness towards him and ran away because she was feeling extremely shy. He just shrugged his shoulders and decided to go back home instead of more training. 1 year later, Naruto stood in a clearing deep within the forests of Konohagakure no Sato, on the west side of the village. It was early afternoon and no was around currently. Naruto stared at a tall thick tree he had picked. From what I remember thinking earlier, I must transfer considerable amount of chakra in my fist and hold it there. Naruto inhaled deeply and calmed his breathing. If I'm correct, I can make my chakra take the form of a larger fist over my hand and then use it as a large-scale attack. Naruto brought his hand up perpendicular to his body and closed it, forming a fist. He closed his eyes to concentrate. He then let the natural energy flowing in the world enter his body swiftly and started feeling the flow of his chakra in his body. He willed some of it to concentrate over his hand. He started visualizing what he wanted and suddenly large amounts of potent purple chakra started manifesting around Naruto's arms. The chakra took the shape of a large arm around Naruto's own small arm and he smiled. For the past few hours, he had been thinking about a taijutsu technique that could be used as a large-scale attack. He had the idea in his mind but couldn't execute it properly. He closed his hand into a fist and the chakra manifested arm folded its hand to form a fist. Naruto pulled his arm back and thrust it forward in a quick pace. What happened next came as a surprise to him, although it did make him smile at the result. The moment the chakra arm contacted the tree, it broke into several pieces and some of it flew back several hundred yards and formed a narrow crater along the path of the flying tree. He rubbed the back of his head sheepishly with his free hand and thought, I might need to use less chakra next time I plan to use this. He looked up at sky and saw that it was only afternoon. He decided to just lay down with his eyes closed and rest for a while after so much thinking and training. A few hours later, a black-haired boy sat on the branches of a high tree. His hair was wild and spiky and wore high-collared black shirt. His eyes were looking at the resting form of one Naruto Namikaze. His black onyx eyes then scanned the area around the blonde carefully to search for anything out of place. He looked up to the sky for a few seconds. It will be sunset soon. He had been ordered by the Hokage to keep an eye on his son for the entire coming week. This was due to several Iwagakure shinobi still lurking around the borders of the Land of Fire. It was dangerous for Naruto to be alone, especially near the borders of the village. Hence, the 5-year-old blonde was given a shinobi to guard him as a precaution, even though Naruto was capable enough of handling several high-skilled shinobi on his own. The Iwagakure shinobi were another matter that surfaced in the past few months. Apparently, several missing ninjas from Iwagakure were spotted on the borders between the Land of Grass and the Land of Fire. A few of them were killed by the Anbu patrolling the borders as a sign of warning, yet more kept invading the borders. Even though the shinobi were portraying themselves as missing ninjas, Minato was wary and skeptical of them. He wouldn't put it past the stubborn Onoki to use underhanded tactics such as sending official Iwa shinobi disguised as missing ninjas to invade Konoha and at the same time have the pathetic excuse for deniability. Minato and Iwagakure never got along well with each other. Before the start of the Third Shinobi World War, Iwa had tried kidnapping his wife Kushina for the sole purpose of the Kyuubi. It enraged him that a village already having 2 Biju with them would try to steal one from another. He had killed off the shinobi involved in the incident during that time and had shown Iwagakure not to take Konohagakure lightly at the end of the Third Shinobi War. It was the Third Ninja War that gave rise to the Yellow Flash of Konoha, and the name still strikes fear in the shinobi of Iwagakure. The shinobi guarding the blonde looked back at Naruto eventually after his gaze left the evening sky. Let's see if the Yondaime's legacy is as good as I was told. He took out 2 kunai from within his pouch and held them between his left hand's fingers. He looked towards Naruto once again and threw the kunai straight at him. When the 2 kunai smashed into the blonde boy resting on the ground, his eyes widened at the unexpected results. The Naruto that was lying on the ground disappeared in a cloud of smoke. Suddenly, he felt cold metal touch the base of his neck. Naruto, who was now standing behind the surprised shinobi, with the tip of his kunai touching his neck, asked in a serious tone. "Who are you, Shinobi-san?" Previously, the Naruto that was lying on the ground disappeared in a cloud of smoke. Suddenly, he felt cold metal touch the base of his neck. Naruto, who was now standing behind the surprised shinobi with the tip of his kunai touching his neck, asked in a serious tone. "Who are you, Shinobi-san?" Present, a Kage Bunshin, Shishui thought, amazed. So, Itachi wasn't kidding about his sensing abilities. He must have known I was here from the start. The kid's probably better than many of the veteran sensor shinobi. Naruto could feel how surprised the shinobi was and couldn't blame him. It's not every day you see a 5-year-old evade an attack with such ease. Although Naruto knew the shinobi in front of him had no ill intentions, he wished to know why it was he was attacked. He saw the raven-haired boy turn his head slightly back and saw him smirk. Naruto was confused as to why the shinobi would be smirking, and within a span of less than a second, Shisui was now standing down on the ground, arms folded over his chest and looking at Naruto with a playful smirk. "You're indeed good, Naruto-kun. I can see why Itachi speaks so highly of you," Shisui said with a smile. Now Naruto was surprised. He had never seen anyone perform a Sunshin so effectively and at such an incredible speed. He thought he had the raven-haired boy cornered. Now he knew how wrong he was. As Naruto stood on the branch of the tree, he looked at the boy. He had short, unkempt, raven-colored hair, black eyes and a relatively broad nose and well-defined eyelashes that were turned upwards at each end. He wore the standard attire of the Uchiha clan, which included a high-collared, dark-colored outfit along with a tanto strapped to the right side of the back of his shoulder. He also wore what appeared to be a harness for his tanto, which ran across his chest and fastened over both his shoulders. "Are you Shisui Uchiha?" Naruto asked as he too sunshined in front of the boy. "Oh, you know of me." He was amused that someone as young as Naruto knew of him, despite him being Hokage's son. "Hi, Itachi told me about you." Naruto gave a small smile as he remembered hearing about the Sunshin no Shisui from his brother-like figure. Shisui nodded as he sat down on the ground. He looked at little boy and patted the area next to him. Knowing what he was being asked, Naruto went and sat next to Shisui. Shisui once again stared at the boy. Earlier when Itachi told him about Naruto's natural aptitude in the shinobi arts, he was slightly reluctant to believe about the boy's prodigal talents, even if he has the blood of Hokage-level shinobi running through his veins. The kid's only 5, he had thought. But seeing how he evaded his attack a few minutes ago with a well-thought-out plan and even surprising him with his moves later, he couldn't help but be amazed. The way the blonde talked and seemed to keep his guard up spoke volumes of how far ahead he was compared to the rest of his generation. Thinking of that brought a small frown on his face. "Gomen, Naruto-kun," he said in a whisper, but loud enough for the blonde to hear. Naruto saw the sad smile Shisui put on his face. But he saw something else too. It was the same smile he saw on his two Chan, Jiraiya Oji-chan and Kakashi Ni-san at times. It's as if they were apologizing to him for something out of their reach. He never understood it. Why would they look at him like that? Was it because of the overwhelming amount of chakra that was inside of him that felt much different than his own? He had a vague idea as to who it belonged to, but he never thought much about it. He believed his two Chan would tell him once the time was right. Naruto turned his head away from him and laid on the grass on his back. He could see the moon and how majestic the sky looked around it. Slightly red with a tint of orange in it. Although, his gaze lingered on the moon a bit longer. He didn't understand why, but he always felt a connection to the moon. "Why would you say that and look at me that way?" Naruto finally asked after a bit of silence. Shisui too looked back towards the sky. He shifted slightly back with his elbows behind him on ground. "You're different from other kids, Naruto. Kids your age normally play outside, laugh from time to time and run around. Meanwhile, you train in the shinobi arts. You keep your guard up all the time. The way you think is far too astute," he explained. He looked back at Naruto with a soft smile on his face and put his hand on the little boy's head. "I'm sorry, Naruto, that even during these times, you can't live like other kids your age. This shinobi world has a lot of darkness in it. But where there's darkness, there's always light. I'm sure you know of it, don't you?" Shisui saw the slight confusion on Naruto's face and chuckled a bit. He ruffled his hair, earning a pout from the little 5-year-old, and got back on his feet. "What did you mean by that, Shisui-san?" Naruto asked as he got up and stretched his arms to lose the slight stiffness in them. "You will understand it someday, Naruto-kun. It's not my place to tell you," Shisui said as he started to walk back towards the village. "Are you going to come or not?" Naruto heard him say and quickly ran to his side. "Hi," Naruto replied. As they were walking into the village, Naruto looked towards the older Uchiha and decided to voice his thoughts. "Why were you here anyway, Shisui-san?" "I was asked by Hokage-sama to watch over you in case you were attacked by any Iwagakure shinobi." Naruto nodded in understanding. Jiraiya Oji-chan had told him how Iwagakure disliked Konoha because of his two Chan, Madara Sofu, and Konoha's position as the strongest among all the great shinobi villages, and that many of them were sighted near Konoha borders on numerous occasions. As they walked through the village, Shisui saw how some of the civilians glared at the boy and some whispered things which were not meant for a boy his age to be heard. He looked towards Naruto and was surprised to see him not being affected by any of it. "It's okay, Shisui-san. I have been hearing them say such things ever since I could remember. It's not their fault. They fear what they don't understand," he said as a tired sigh escaped his lips and started walking at a faster pace towards his home. Shisui frowned at hearing that as he walked behind Naruto. He wanted to say something to him but decided to stay quiet. It was around 8 at night and the two were standing outside the Namikaze compound. "Will we meet again, Shisui-san?" Naruto asked hopefully. Shisui stared at the boy's eyes for a few seconds and smiled. "Of course. Also, if you want, we could train together at times." Naruto nodded his head vigorously at the prospect of training with someone like him. Shisui smiled seeing Naruto act a bit his age. After he watched Naruto go inside the house, he sunshined to the Hokage's office to give his report to the Yondaime. Later at night, Namikaze compound. It was late at night, around 10:30, and Minato had just arrived after a long and boring day of work in the Hokage's office. Sometimes he wondered if the previous Hokage ever felt what he was feeling right now. Tired and exhausted, not physically, but mentally. The position of the Hokage is an extremely tiring job. Listening to the civilians' demands, taking care of the paperwork, ensuring the welfare of the village, keeping the trades between Konoha and her allies steady, ensuring the needs of the shinobi under his command, ensuring Konoha's safety, and more paperwork. He was glad when Shisui came and reported that his son was home safely. With the increase in numbers of Iowa shinobi sightings near the borders of Land of Grass and Taki, he did not want to take a chance with Naruto's safety. Unknown to many, Minato had lost a lot of people in his life. He saw his mother die in front of him when he was 4 by some Omegakure shinobi. That was what led him to unlock his Sharingan. His father left him alone in the village when he was 5 years old. Several of his friends were brutally slaughtered during the Third Great Shinobi War by Iwagakure and Kurigakure shinobi. Even up to this day, he feels like breaking down when he thinks of Kushina's death. It was painful for him watch her leave his side. She was his light in this dark world. His father often told him to look for that special person with whom you're most comfortable and hold on to them. For him it was his son, Naruto, now. He loved Konoha dearly and would do anything to ensure her safety, but he would always pick Naruto first. He knew he may be acting selfish, but he could not afford to lose another person close to him. As Minato was walking towards his bedroom to get changed, he walked past the library and saw Naruto sitting on the small mat on his knees reading a book. His face showed how concentrated he was. He looked to his son's side and saw several more books stacked on top of each other. He smiled seeing Naruto so immersed in the books. His mind must be entirely focused in those books. I doubt he sensed that I'm here, Minato thought as he chuckled inwardly. Instead of going to his room, he decided to stay and see how long it would take his son to notice him. However, what he saw made him widen his eyes. Naruto. With Naruto. After Shisui had left, Naruto had walked straight to the library. It wasn't a very decorated room, considering it was the Hokage's personal library. The room consisted of 3 tall bookshelves on 3 sides of the walls filled with different types of books. However, most of the books were related to ninjutsu in general. There was a small cupboard near the door which consisted of fuinjutsu scrolls. There were 2 desks in the room. One which was slightly at the back and was normally used by Minato, and another in the middle with a lantern to its side. It was slightly smaller than the one Minato used. There was a small mat next to the smaller desk which Naruto used. Even though there were lamps inside the room, Naruto preferred to use the lantern to study. Hearing stories of how his grandfather studied during the era of warring clans, Naruto felt he should do something similar to his grandfather, in a way to feel closer to him. He was always enthralled when his two-chan told him stories of his grandfather. Despite of what others said about the former Uchiha clan head, he believed him to be a good man. Like any 5-year-old, he too wanted to imitate the one he admired a lot. Naruto had made a habit of reading books from a very young age. Whether it be about the history of Konohagakure, the history about the origins of ninjutsu, or the books related to chakra theory, he loved reading them all. So, here he sat again with a book on his desk. Elemental Chakra and Hand Signs, read the title of the book. He opened the book with a wide smile on his face and started to read the first page. As he read the book, he learned about the different types of chakra nature. Them being Kaden, fire, Futon, wind, Suiten, water, Doden, earth, Raiden, lightning, and how each nature type is stronger than one and weaker than another. He learned about 12 hand signs that are used to infuse chakra inside one's body to use jutsus Tori, bird, Ui, boar, Hai Inu, dog, Shu, Tatsu, dragon, Shayan, Ushi, ox, Cho, Tora, tiger, Yin, Mi, snake, Si, Ne, rat, Zi, Uma, horse, Wu, Suru, monkey, Shen, Yu, hare, Mao and Hatsuji, ram, Wei, and the applications of each hand sign when performing elemental ninjutsu. The Tori hand sign is commonly associated with release of Futon chakra. The Inu hand sign commonly associated with release of Suiten-natured chakra. The Tora hand sign commonly associated with release of Kaden and Doden-natured chakra, and the release of Raiden-natured chakra is commonly associated with the Mi hand sign. The Mi hand sign can also be associated with the usage of Doden-natured chakra. He briefly wondered who it was that invented hand signs and decided to ask his Tu-chan later about it. He was so enthralled and focused on what he was reading he did not even notice the clock ticking or the fact that his Tu-chan stood outside the door watching him read. Or that's how he made it seem like. As Naruto finished reading the book, he had an idea in his mind he wanted to try out. He knew that his chakra control was extremely advanced, better than almost everyone in the village. Minato, Jiraiya and Kakashi probably the only ones who came close to him in that aspect. His Tu-chan and Jiraiya Oji-chan even went as far as to tell him it could only be matched by Tsunade Senju. For the past year, he was made to work on several different chakra control exercises to get him familiarized with them. Some of the medical ninja working in the hospital, who were close friends with Kushina, were quite fond of the little blonde and even taught him the theories and practical applications of slightly advanced medical ninjutsu, seeing his advanced chakra control. Apart from those, he was made to focus on taijutsu and the handling of weapons such as shuriken and kunai. Although it took some time to get his aim correct in throwing the shuriken and kunai, Naruto could now throw them with pinpoint accuracy after a few months of practice. Unknown to Minato, Naruto knew he was standing outside. Over the past year, his sensing abilities had increased dramatically. He could visualize the entirety of Konoha in his mind now if he wanted to. Knowing his Tu-chan was watching him intently, he wanted to surprise him with what he had in his mind. Naruto sat in a meditative position with his eyes closed. He calmed his breathing and inhaled and exhaled at an even pace, letting the stray thoughts exit his mind. This was one of the most effective way to get one's chakra to flow in a desired way inside one's body. He then put his hands in the seal for meditation. It is done by placing the back of the right hand on the palm of the left and the thumbs of both hands touching each other with both hands resting on the lap. He stayed in that position for a few minutes and allowed his chakra to calm down. Naruto then slowly went through the hand signs Ne, rat, Ushi, ox, Tora, tiger, and opened his eyes along with opening the palm of his right hand. Suddenly a small fire ignited on top of his opened palm and a few seconds later Naruto willed it to stop. Minato, who was standing outside the door, widened his eyes upon seeing his son manipulate Kaden-natured chakra. "How far will you go, Naru?" He stared at Naruto with nothing but pure amazement in his eyes. He couldn't believe someone so young could manipulate elemental chakra so easily. After a few seconds of that, he chuckled softly as he realized his son always manages to do the impossible and surprise him every single time. "Tu-chan," Naruto exclaimed happily as he walked towards his father. "I see you have been busy, Naru," Minato said as he patted him on the head softly. "Wasn't it cool, Tu-chan? I could manipulate fire." I remembered you telling me how most of the Uchiha were affiliated with Kaiden nature. Naruto paused for a while and thought out loud. I wonder if I can perform other nature types. Naruto replied as he got into his thinking pose. Minato laughed lightly watching his son. Why don't we find out about it tomorrow? It's getting late and you should sleep now. Remember what I told you, you have to rest your body properly as well as your mind. Hi, 2-chan, Naruto said as he ran to his bedroom. Next day, Namikaze compound. Kakashi was lazily standing next to a tree in the training ground of the Namikaze compound, giggling perversely while reading his orange book. Minato looked at his student and sighed for the umpteenth time. He never understood why his sensei wrote such smut and why people even read such a thing. He looked in front of himself and saw his son standing after completing his morning routine of physical exercises and taijutsu katas. He was proud and incredibly amazed at the rate which Naruto was learning things. He moved his hands through his silky blonde hair once and looked up at the sky and thought. I wish you were here to see our son Kushina, you would be proud of him. Kakashi, give me some chakra paper. It's time we get started with Naruto's elemental training. He has learned the basics of what I had to teach him to the best of his abilities. Minato said as he asked the former Anbu captain to come near him. Kakashi raised an eyebrow at that. He was just told to come here early this morning, without any details of what he had to do from his sensei. He had helped Naruto at times with his training, but he didn't think he would be ready for such advanced training so soon. He knew the blonde was a genius, one who probably comes around once in a generation. Even he wasn't that good when he was 5. Nonetheless, he nodded and walked towards Naruto and his sensei, taking out a piece of white paper and handing it out to him. Minato saw the slight doubt come over Kakashi's lone visible eye and asked Naruto to perform the Kaiden chakra manipulation which he did last night. Naruto too had felt the slight doubt in Kakashi's mind and nodded to his father. He went through the same hand signs which he did the previous night. Ne, rat, ushi, ox, tora, tiger, and opened the palm of his right hand, igniting a small fire on top of it. Kakashi's loan widened slightly as he stared at Naruto in surprise. Sensei, Kakashi asked in surprise. Naruto smiled, seeing his niece-san's stupefied expression. I know Kakashi. I was shocked too when I saw him do it last night. He was reading books on elemental chakra and hand signs. This is the reason why I believe he's ready to learn elemental manipulation. If he could do that, he could master the basic manipulation with ease. Hi, Sensei, Kakashi said, still not taking his eyes off Naruto. He felt stupid to doubt Naruto now. The things he has seen the kid do. It still amazes him and at times terrifies him. Minato handed one sheet of paper to Naruto and kept one in his hand. Naru, you already know the different nature types of chakra, right? Minato asked. Hi, 2-chan. There are 5 different types of chakra nature, each being stronger and weaker than the other. They are Kaiden, Suishin, Raiden, Doden and Futon. Apart from these 5, there's also Yin and Yang chakra. Yin chakra is the spiritual energy of a person and the Yang chakra is the physical energy of the person. Naruto explained briefly. That is correct, Naru. Now, every person having chakra has either 1 or 2 chakra natures which are their primary natures. There are times when one is born with 3 primary affinities also, while others must train in other chakra natures which is not their primary to be able to use them effectively. This chakra paper here helps one identify their primary chakra nature. When you apply chakra into the paper reacts to the chakra, showing various results. If it's sliced down the middle, you have Futon nature. If it becomes damp, you have Sweeten nature. If it crumbles, you have Doden nature. If it burns, you have Kaiden nature, and if it wrinkles, you have Raiden nature. Did you understand me so far? Minato said seriously. Naruto nodded and Minato asked him to apply some chakra into the chakra paper. The results were quite astonishing. As soon as Naruto applied some chakra into the paper, it sliced into 4 different pieces. The first slice burned to ashes immediately, the second one became extremely damp, the third one crumbled to pieces and the last one became wrinkled. While Naruto calmly looked at the fallen pieces of paper, inwardly he was excited at the fact he could perform all the chakra nature types. Meanwhile, both Minato and Kakashi stared at the sight in front of them with dumbfounded expressions. It should be impossible. No human should have the innate talent to perform all 5 chakra nature transformations. Yet the proof was right in front of their eyes. After a long silence, Kakashi cleared his throat to speak. Well, that was surprising, Naruto. Minato just nodded his head. Naruto felt how surprised the both were. 2chan, was that supposed to happen? You said maximum a person is born with the ability to use either 2 or 3 different chakra nature types. Naruto asked in confusion. Well, that is normally the case, Naru. I haven't seen anything like this before. I will have to ask Jiraiya-sensei about it. Minato said and paused a bit before thinking about something. Whatever the case, Naru, it's a good thing, isn't it? You have more potential to become stronger if you are well versed with all the chakra nature transformations. Minato finished with a smile. Naruto smiled upon hearing that and nodded his head. So, what now, 2chan? How should I train in these elements? Naruto was extremely excited to learn that he had much more potential to become stronger. He could protect his 2chan and village that way. He still remembered the words written by the Shodai Hokage on that tree. He could feel the emotion with which the words were written. More so, his grandfather also dreamt of a peaceful world. He would create a world where his 2chan, Ni-san, his friends and he could live peacefully. Well, Naru, that's why Kakashi is here right now. I have some important work to do at the Hokage's office. So, he will be helping you getting started with the basics of elemental manipulation. Minato said and looked towards Kakashi, making a silent request. Surprisingly, Kakashi nodded without any hesitation. Minato expected the man to be slightly reluctant or lazy perhaps, but he guessed Kakashi was indeed eager to spend more time with Naruto. Minato soon disappeared to his office in a yellow flash and left the two alone. Naruto looked at Kakashi curiously and asked, "Well, Ni-san, what are we going to do?" Kakashi smiled wickedly, which sent shivers down the young blonde's spine. Well, Autoto. 2 years and 4 months later. Kaden. Gokyaku no Jutsu, Fire Style. Fireball Jutsu, Kakashi said as he breathed out a massive orb of flame which speedily headed straight towards Naruto. Seeing the flames coming towards him at a fast pace, Naruto held his hand in the rat seal and said, "Suiten. Sujinheki, Water Style. Water Wall," while spewing out large amounts of water from his mouth. The water immediately formed a defensive barrier around Naruto, cancelling the Kaden Jutsu. As both the attacks got cancelled out, a thick mist was formed around the training ground, where Kakashi and Naruto were currently having their morning spars. He's gotten a lot better at using Suiten Jutsu, Kakashi thought. Not even a second later his eyes widened as 2 shuriken came flying towards him with what he guessed were coated with futon chakra. He substituted himself with a nearby log at the last second and now stood atop the branch of a nearby tree. He got a bit tense as he could not see Naruto anywhere once the mist was cleared. It was a meek point for Kakashi to try and sense him out, and he knew it. In the past 2 years, Naruto had mastered controlling his chakra to an incredible degree, and he knew the blonde could mask his chakra from him entirely. Nonetheless, Kakashi scanned the area where the mist was more prominent with his Sharingan for any whereabouts of the blonde. Kakashi then made 3 hand seals and Raiden-natured chakra could be seen crackling on his right hand. The sounds of birds chirping could be heard in the entire training ground. He jumped out from the tree and smashed his hand into the ground with excessive force. Chidori. For a few seconds the ground crackled with electricity and then a large explosion took place. A large crater formed within the training ground as 3 Narutos could be seen standing in between all the rubble, suggesting that Naruto had used Doden, Mogaragakure no Jutsu, allowing him to hide underground like a mole. Kakashi smirked at Naruto, having found his location with ease. Two Narutos jumped at Kakashi quickly, while the third one jumped away to a safe spot. Seeing the two Naruto come towards him, which he now knew were Kage Bunshins, he immediately made a Kage Bunshin of his own and jumped back. The first Naruto clone aimed a punch at Kakashi clone's chest, but it ducked under the punch and tried to give the first Naruto clone a kick. He was blocked this time by the second Naruto clone who was holding his legs. The first Naruto clone jumped in the air aiming to give a roundhouse kick to the Kakashi clone, when he smirked. Before the clones could realize what was happening, the Kakashi clone burst into lightning and electrocuted both of Naruto's clones, dispelling them too in the process. This was a variation of Kage Bunshin which was made by Kakashi himself. He had named it Raiden Kage Bunshin, Lightning Shadow Clone. After training with the blonde on a regular basis for more than 2 years, he had improved several of his existing skills and made a couple of new ones. If one were to talk about his skills now, it would be borderline S rank. As the real Kakashi jumped back, he saw the third Naruto make hand signs for a Suiden jutsu and started copying his hand signs by focusing on him with his Sharingan. Suiden. Suiden no Jutsu, Water Style. Water Dragon Jutsu. Large amounts of water molecules were converted by Naruto to form a huge water dragon with menacing yellow eyes. Suiden. Suiden no Jutsu, Water Style. Water Dragon Jutsu, Kakashi said, as the water from a nearby pond rose several heights similar to the one formed by Naruto. Both the water dragons roared and raced toward each other in frightening speed. The two water dragons collided with each other and flooded a part of the training ground with water. With practiced ease, both Naruto and Kakashi stood atop the water, focusing the chakra to the sole of their shoes. Kakashi was slightly out of breath due to the high amounts of chakra he had been using today. Even though his chakra reserves had increased a lot in the last couple of years, his constantly active Sharingan always had a drain on him and hence he tired easily in drawn-out battles. He looked towards Naruto and saw him smirk. He was confused about Naruto's reaction until he saw him mouth those words, making his eyes widen. Bunshin Daibakua, Great Clone Explosion. As the clone exploded, all the water in the area got splashed around everywhere and another large crater was formed. As the water was falling from the sky along with all the rock debris, it hid the ground temporarily. Naruto, who was hanged as a rock on the far edge of the training ground, undid the henge and sensed Kakashi using the familiar Sunshin no Jutsu. He sensed his location in less than a second and just disappeared from his spot without any indication that he was there. There was no swirl of leaves or a cloud of smoke. He simply vanished. Naruto was extremely glad that Shisui helped him improve on this technique. Unlike most, who believe Sunshin no Jutsu to be only useful for transportation, Naruto integrated the technique well into his style of fighting. Of course, it had to be a clone, thought the copy ninja. Kakashi had narrowly managed to Sunshin out of the area on top of a tree at the edge of the training ground. As soon as he arrived there, a second later he felt the touch of cold metal touching his neck. He looked back to see Naruto standing behind him, a kunai placed at his neck. "You lose, Kakashi ni-san," Naruto said while smirking. "Well, you got me again," he said with on his eye smiles. He pulled his headband down to cover his Sharingan and then both sunshined inside the living room of the house. "That was good spar, Kakashi ni-san," Naruto said as he casually fell on the sofa. Naruto and Kakashi had made a routine of sparring with each other regularly, whether it be solely ninjutsu or taijutsu. Over the past 2 years, Naruto had thoroughly trained in arts of ninjutsu, taijutsu and genjutsu. Although Naruto was extremely proficient in using all chakra natures, he felt more comfortable with Suiden, Kaden and Futon. However, Senjutsu was the area where the blonde had improved upon the most. Even the Toad Elders and Jiraiya were surprised how quickly Naruto could enter Sage mode. Initially it took him about 5 to 6 seconds to reach the enhanced state, but now he could enter it instantly. It was like the chakra flowing in the world would rush in to enter his body, eager to rekindle with his chakra. The kind of things Naruto could do with Senjutsu, It was beautiful yet terrifying. You're only 7 Naruto and it's almost impossible for me to beat you in a spar. Kakashi said, you have come a long way since the day we started training together. You should be proud of yourself, Naruto, Kakashi said with an eye smile. I know, I am. His smile grew as he saw Naruto's eyes widen ever so slightly. He too then sat down, tired from all the morning exercise and the spar. Kakashi couldn't help but smile and feel proud of the way Naruto had turned out. Despite being young, he showed shinobi skills, maturity and wisdom far beyond his age. Really, Ni-san? Naruto asked as he looked down with a small smile. It warmed his heart whenever his two-chan, Jiraiya Oji-chan or Ni-san spoke of him this way. There weren't many people in the village Naruto spoke a lot to. So, he always treasured the compliments he got from his loved ones, for whatever reasons. After Naruto spent a few seconds to recover from the kind words, he gave a small heartwarming smile. Thank you, Kakashi Ni-san. He brought his right hand to the back of his neck. I really appreciate it, coming from you. He added. Kakashi nodded. Both knew the other extremely well, even without the blonde's special skills. After a few minutes of silence, Kakashi got up and saw that Naruto was already dozed off and thus left the house with Asuncion to his own apartment for a bath and a change of clothes. Later in the evening, sometime in the evening, the young Namikaze groggily opened his eyes and rubbed it slowly. Looking outside the window, he saw the sky was almost orange now. He instantly got up from the sofa and stretched his arms a bit. Naruto was now 7 years and 7 months. He stood at a height of 4 feet and 3 inches, which was good for his age. He had lost most of his baby fat, a testament of the regular physical exercise he had been doing in the past few years. He wore a full-sleeved gray shirt with the Uchiha clan symbol donning the back of it and black Anbu pants. The current Uchiha clan head, Fugaku Uchiha, who was good friends with Minato, had presented both him and Naruto the clan symbol as a sign of goodwill. This indicated that they were always welcomed within the clan. The pants were gifted to Naruto by his brother-like figure, Kakashi. He wore black gloves on his hands, which was his most cherished gift to him yet, given to him by his two-chan. It belonged to his grandfather, Madara Uchiha, who had given it to his son when he dropped off young Minato outside of Konohagakure. His most noticeable change was his hair. He had grown it longer in the last couple of years. He still had 2 bangs of blonde hair with a mix of brown which framed the sides of his jaws. His hair now reached past his shoulder, almost till his mid-waist. A bit of his hair now covered his right eye, which Naruto seemed to like. His eyebrows were cut short, showing a symbol of his nobility. Crap, I slept again, Naruto thought out loud. Not that dream again, he thought as he walked to a washroom to freshen up. This had been a recent occurrence now. In the past year, he had been getting dreams of a 9-tailed fox and an old man whose face he could not remember. Except that he had a shikuho in one of his hands. Naruto knew about the Kyubi no Yoko that was sealed within him now, but hadn't talked to anyone about it yet. He wanted to get used to the knowledge of it on his own. It was only a few months back that he found out about it, when he read a few books on bijus and jinchuriki. He was surprised there were 8 more bijus like the fox and all of them were sealed within humans, who are called jinchuriki. Surprisingly, he was relieved finally knowing why it was majority of the villagers seemed to hate him and knowing what the overwhelming amount of chakra was which he often felt inside himself. A few minutes later when Naruto came out of the washroom, he decided to finally speak to his father about this. He had thought the dreams would stop after a few months but it had been almost over a year now. He did not hate his two-chan for keeping something like this from him. He could never hate his two-chan. Nor did he hate the Sandaime. He knew they had their reasons and he understood them. From what he gathered by reading, the Kyubi was the strongest of all the biju and comparatively different from them. So, he had hypothesized it would require someone with a strong life force to be able to contain such potent and enormous chakra of the biju. He knew one of the main reasons for the Biju to be sealed within him was because of his Uzumaki heritage. Hence, with that in mind, he walked upstairs to the library where he had sensed his father was. Minato had returned to his house early today, deciding to finish rest of the paperwork in his library. The academy will be starting 4 months from now, in September, and Minato was looking forward to the new batch as his son, Naruto, will be joining this year too. He knew his son was far ahead in terms of skills and knowledge compared to other kids in academy and even most of the Junin for most matter. But, as every parent, he wanted Naruto to make more friends, get to know people more better and form a strong bond with the village. Most of the friends Naruto currently had were far older than him and he only knew Sasuke and Sakura among his friends who were of his age. He chuckled a bit thinking about Sakura. That girl reminded him a lot of Kushina. Kind, gentle and scary when her mood is off. Nonetheless, he was glad the two were there in his son's life. So, here he was now, looking at admission forms for all the academy students who will be joining this year as well as the teachers who will be teaching them during their time at the academy. As he flipped through the forms, his eyes landed on the picture of one named Iruka Yumino. He had been recently promoted to the Chunin rank and had applied for the job as an academy teacher. He knew the boy during his time as a Junin and smiled. Even though his parents were killed during the Kyuubi attack, he knew he wouldn't act differently towards Naruto. He will be a good teacher for Naru. As Minato was going through the pages, he heard footsteps entering the library, saw it was Naruto. He looked up from his work and smiled at him. However, looking at his eyes, he understood something was troubling him. "What is it, Naru? Anything happened?" he asked gently. Naruto fidgeted his feet a bit and seemed a bit uncomfortable to speak about the subject he had in mind, but decided to come out with it anyway. "2-chan, I want to talk to you about something and ask you a favor." Minato became slightly worried looking at his face and immediately got up from his seat and walked up to him. He crouched down in front of him and put a hand to his cheek. "It's okay, Naru. You can tell me anything. Did anything happen? I have been having these dreams for over a year. At first I thought nothing of it. Then it continued to happen regularly and I thought it would stop after a while. But it didn't stop." Naruto replied as he looked at his feet. "Well, tell me what it is about." "It's, about the Kyuubi no Yoko, 2-chan. I know the Sandaime Jiji had sealed fox in me because of my Uzumaki heritage. I have been seeing the fox and an old man with a shikuho frequently in the dreams I have been having," Naruto said slowly. Minato froze in his spot as he heard the Kyuubi's name. He didn't know whether to be amazed at his astuteness or be worried about him finding out about the Kyuubi no Yoko. He knew how the villagers treated Naruto. But he can't change the views of people who can't look past their grief and sorrow. He dreaded thinking if his son hated him for making him a Jinchuriki. Naruto realized what his father was thinking and squeezed his hand, gaining his attention. "I can never hate you, 2-chan. You are the only one in this world I love the most. I understand why Sandaime Jiji and you decided to seal the fox in me. I don't hate the villagers either. I love Konoha and her people with everything. I can feel their emotions. They are grieving and are dejected about losing so many of their loved ones during the attack. They don't hate me, they hate the fox. But I know it's hard for them to look past that hatred." Minato just stared at his son as he spoke about the village. He still couldn't believe the little blonde he had held in his hand for the first time almost 8 years ago was speaking so wisely. A tear slipped down his eye as he realized the last words Sarutobi Hiruzen spoke to him before he perished. Flashback. Sarutobi Hiruzen was down on the ground, panting heavily. The Shiki Fujin dead demon consuming seal on his chest was clearly visible, which he had used to seal the yin chakra of the Kyuubi no Yoko within himself. His entire body was burning from the inside. He didn't count on the chakra being this strong and potent. He was aware he was counting his last breath and dying like a true Hokage of Konohagakure no Sato should, protecting the village from her enemies. He looked to his left and saw the young blonde boy, Naruto Namikaze, in whom he had sealed the yang half of the Kyuubi's chakra. Seeing Minato cradle the boy in his arms, a smile came to his face as he knew he made the right decision. A Jinchuriki's life is filled with hatred and hardships. Naruto had already lost his mother tonight and was condemned to a life of hate. He couldn't take away his father from him too. At least with Minato around, Naruto would have a chance at normal life. As normal as it could get for the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi no Yoko. He saw Minato approach him with Naruto in his arms. He gazed at the little baby with admiration in his eyes. The village had a new hero. Someone who would protect them every day. Arigato, Sandaime-sama. You don't know how grateful I am. I will make sure my son grows up happy and loved. Minato said with a few tears in his eyes. A. Shinobi's, life is not measured by how he lives, Minato-kun. B. But by how he dies, he replied with a smile in between breaths. He looked at the little blonde one last time and Minato bent down so that Sarutobi could get a better look at him. He lifted his hand with sheer will and caressed Naruto's cheek. He is the hero of Konohagakure no Sato, Minato-kun. A day will come when you will see the will of fire burn brightly his eyes. He was born during time of great chaos and darkness, but he will be the one to shine light upon the shinobi world. With those words, the Sandaime Hokage of Konohagakure no Sato, the third man to ever gain the title of Shinobi no Kami, closed his eyes forever. Flashback end. You were right, Sandaime-sama. The will of fire burns brightly in Naru. Minato thought. He felt Naruto put his little hands on his face and wipe away the tear. I'm sorry, Naru, that I did not tell you about this sooner. I was worried about how you would react and thought about telling you when you were older. Minato said in a low voice. I know, Tu-chan. It's all right, Naruto said as he smiled at his beloved father. Tu-chan, I want to speak to the Kyuubi. Naruto said and spoke the last rather hastily. You want to what? I want to talk to the Kyuubi, Naruto said again but more clearly. Minato's face became serious hearing Naruto's request. Naruto had never asked his father for anything in his short life. Seeing his father's serious look, he was worried he was going to be scolded for asking such a question. Honestly, he himself did not know why he wanted to speak to the Biju. He did not hate the Biju, neither did he like the Biju. That's mainly because whatever he read about the chakra entities was from the point of view of humans. He wanted to understand the Biju. Why they were how the humans made them out to be. Why could he only feel hatred and malice and a slight hint of loneliness when he tried feeling the massive chakra that was there inside his body? Naruto, why do you want to talk to the Kyuubi? Minato asked in a serious voice. He was sure he could suppress the Kyuubi with his Mangekyo Sharingan if need be and that the cage was strong enough to hold the fox back. But still, he needed to know the reason behind his son's peculiar request. I want to understand the Biju, Tu-chan. Why is it that they exist? Everything we know about the Biju is from the human's point of view, who hate the creatures. Naruto said with equal seriousness. Minato was slightly taken aback by that response. He did expect him to have thought about it so deeply. He thought about it for a minute and then nodded. Naruto sat in a lotus position in front of his Tu-chan. Minato activated his Sharingan, as his eyes changed from sapphire blue to red color with 3 tomos in it. He looked towards Naruto as the tomos in his Sharingan started spinning in clockwise direction. Naruto's mindscape. Both Naruto and Minato appeared in what seemed to be a sewer. There were pipes in every wall and the floor was filled with water with about 20 centimeters in height. They saw a long corridor in front of them and started walking in that direction. Come closer, called out a deep voice which they both knew belonged to the Kyuubi no Yoko. After walking for a couple of minutes, Naruto and Minato found themselves staring at a big iron door with vertical bars. In the middle of the door, there was a small piece of paper with the kanji for seal imprinted on it. Naruto looked inside the cage but it looked empty. He was about to inside but was stopped by Minato's hand on his shoulder. "Wait, Naru. The fox will show itself," Minato said. Suddenly behind the bars of the empty cage, Naruto and Minato saw two glowing red eyes with black vertical slits. As the eyes approached the door, he noticed the form of the fox with 9 tails swinging wildly on his back. There it stood behind the doors, the most powerful being in the world, the most powerful of the 9 Biju, the Kyuubi the Yoko. "Naruto," said the fox as he stared at Naruto in the eye. For a few minutes the Kyuubi and Naruto just gazed at each other in the eyes. Before, when Naruto tried to feel the mass in his gut, he only ever felt hatred or malice and at times, loneliness. Now standing so close to the Biju, he seemed almost calm. Naruto smiled. His senjutsu chakra was soothing and relaxing the Kyuubi. Whatever the case, Naruto was aware that the Kyuubi could also feel him, like he too had the ability to read emotions. It had been over 5 minutes and the Kyuubi and Naruto were still gazing into each other's eyes. It was like they were intently watching each other's soul. Naruto saw something in the fox's eyes that made his eyes widen. They both were the same. They both were hated and scorned by the villagers. They both were considered demons. They both knew the meaning of loneliness. Knew the meaning of hatred. They both were forced upon each other and they were both the definition of strong. They were the same, in more ways than one. Naruto understood the Biju now. He was misunderstood. He was lonely. And it was because humans feared his power, that they hated him. Naruto stood proud and tall in front of the great Kyuubi no Yoko and gave him a smile and nod of his head, which was replicated by the Kyuubi himself. It is said that when two people can feel each other's emotion, they don't need words to express themselves. Because when you can feel each other at such an intimate level, you cannot help but love them. Meanwhile, Minato stood beside Naruto and intently watched the interaction between Naruto and the Kyuubi. He knew his son had the innate ability to feel one's emotion. Yet he did not understand what it was Naruto was trying to achieve here. His eyes widened when he saw his son nod his head to the fox and the fox returning the gesture with a smile of his own pointed canines. "I'm sorry for what has happened to you," Naruto said after the long silence, surprising Minato even further. "I know," replied the fox, still looking at the tiny form of Naruto. Naruto raised his right hand and formed it into a fist and outstretched it towards the Kyuubi. "Naru." Minato was about to stop his son when he stopped dead in his tracks at the scene in front of him. Never in his life had he seen such a thing in front of him. A 7-year-old boy befriending the greatest Biju in the world. And so, the Kyuubi too bumped his fists with Naruto. From there, they were linked. They both knew everything about each other. Their origins, their life, their thoughts, their darkness, and more importantly, they knew they could trust each other with their lives. Naruto now knew about the Rakudo Sennin, Hagoromo Otsutsuki. He knew about his 2 sons Indra Otsutsuki and Ashura Otsutsuki. The reasons behind why this shinobi world headed into this war-torn state. The reason why he felt he was different than other people. He now knew who he was as he looked at the sun and moon mark on the palms of his right and left hand. But most important of all, he knew the type of person his mother was. "I will save you one day, Kurama." Naruto gave one of the most beautiful smiles Minato had ever seen. "Naru," Minato called out to him hesitantly. A few seconds later, Naruto turned to his father. "Yes, Tu-chan, what happened just now?" he asked a bit warily. It was weird for him to watch the Kyuubi smile. Naruto chuckled seeing his father's reaction. It must have been awfully weird for him, he mused. He turned back to Kurama and asked, "Kurama, can you show my Tu-chan everything you showed me just now?" The fox got up on his legs with his 9 tails swinging wildly behind him and lowered his head to Minato's eye level. "Madara's son," Kurama growled. Minato's sweat dropped at that reply. "Hey, he's my grandfather, okay," Naruto replied childishly with a mock glare. His grandfather and Tu-chan were his idols. He would never take anyone bad-mouthing them. "Fine, whatever." Kurama said and outstretched his fist towards Minato. Minato looked towards Naruto questioningly, unsure of what to do. It's alright 2-chan. Bump fists with him and you will know what I'm talking about. Deciding to trust his son, Minato bumped his fist with the Kyuubi's. Once they had broken contact, he stayed quiet for a while. He knew everything now, his origins, the unaltered history of the shinobi world. He turned his gaze towards his son and once again just stared at him with disbelief in his eyes. Something which he had been doing a lot in the past few years. He wondered if there was anything that Naruto couldn't do. It was just too overwhelming. Yet, it made sense. He closed his eyes and folded his arms over his chest. A trait he seemed share with his son when he was in deep thought. He went through everything and rearranged all the information he already knew with what he had learned recently. A few minutes later, Minato opened his eyes and walked towards Naruto. He instantly picked him up in his right arm and patted his head with his left. All of this caused the young blonde to become extremely flushed. "Tou-chan." Naruto shouted, extremely embarrassed that Kurama was watching all of this. "Shish, let me talk, okay?" Minato asked softly, earning a small nod from Naruto. "I have never believed in destiny, Naruto. I always believe that one forges their own path through hard work and determination. But what I learned right now was extremely overwhelming. But it does make sense for the shinobi world's current situation. I have always thought of you to be special. But that's every parent's duty, nay." Minato started. "Like every parent, it is my duty to believe in you. To guide you in your dark times and stand alongside you when in the light. So, it doesn't matter whether you are the child of prophecy or the fact that we both are descendants of the Rakudo Sennin. You are Naruto Namikaze, son of Kushina Uzumaki and Minato Namikaze. That's what you'll always be to me. I will always believe in you, Naru." Minato finished as he kissed his son on the forehead. Naruto could feel the love his 2-chan had for him. It made him feel so warm to be in his embrace. It made him feel safe. He knew who he was and what he had to do. He was Naruto Namikaze and he would always love his 2-chan and strive to create a world where his loved ones could live peacefully. Naruto looked at his father in the eyes and nodded his head slowly, engulfing him in a tight hug. "Enough with this mushy scene. It's giving me a headache," Kyuubi said in his ever so deep voice. Minato and Naruto chuckled seeing Kurama resting his head on his paws. Today a bond was formed between the three. One which would shape the world in the unforeseen future. 5 days later, Konohagakure no Sato. Naruto was casually sitting at the edge of a lake on the west side of the village. He usually came over to train when Kakashi and Minato were busy with their work. Today, however, he decided to just rest and enjoy the lax time. It was late evening now and the sky was very clear tonight. He was lying down on the grass with his legs hanging a few inches above the water surface. He was told he would joining the academy soon in the coming months and he was extremely excited on the prospect of making new friends. He wondered if Sakura would be joining too. "I should ask her soon," he thought offhandedly. He closed his eyes and felt the different emotions flowing in the village. It was among his favorite things to do. He felt most of the people were quite happy. Some were sad for reasons he did not understand, while some were horny. He had learned a thing or two about such things from Kakashi. Watching him read those orange books every time had piqued his interest. So, one day he managed to snatch a book from him without letting him know and read it. It's suffice to say, he was scarred that day for life. A while later, Naruto got up from his position and decided to walk to Ichiraku Ramen to satisfy his ramen urges. As he was walking towards the place through the market street of the village, his eyes landed on a girl about the same age as him. She was staring inside one of the shops and by the look on her face, he assumed she must really like what she was staring at. She had neck-length dark blue color hair and white eyes. A Hyuga, Naruto thought. She wore a lavender color kimono with a white floral design and brown colored sandals. As she turned towards him, he noticed how beautiful her face was. Her eyes were so hypnotizing and mesmerizing. The two stared at each other for a few seconds until he heard someone call out to her. "Hinata-sama, it's getting late, we must return to the house soon. Your mother is waiting for you," said one of the branch Hyuga members, who was Hinata's escort outside the Hyuga compound. Naruto saw her leave and he kept his eyes on her retreating figure. He saw her turn her head slightly to look at him, and for reasons unknown to him, he gave her a big smile and waved to her gently. "Hinata, that's a pretty name," he thought as he slid his hands inside his pocket and walked to the Ichiraku ramen store. Near the borders of Hai no Kuni and Land of Grass. It was late at night, and 3 shinobi could be seen entering the borders of Hai no Kuni from the Land of Grass. Each of them had a black cloak on them and a black face mask covered their faces. However, the most prominent feature about them was their forehead protector, which had the kanji for earth on it. They were hopping from one tree to another and were traveling at a fast pace. They had recently been given an assassination mission by their Tsuchikage and were also provided help from within Konoha. Hence, they were traveling at a fast pace to meet with their informant. However, not everyone in the team was made aware of the identity of their target. Due to the sensitivity of the mission, only the team captain was briefed about the mission and their target in detail. Seeing as they were inside the borders of Hai no Kuni now, one of the team members voiced his thoughts to the team captain, who was leading ahead. "Taicho, who's our target?" he asked with seriousness present in his voice. Without taking his eyes off the dark path ahead, the team captain replied with a sick smile. "Naruto Namikaze."